Okay. Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Before we begin the meeting, I'd like to welcome Gianna, our honorary board member, who will be with us until her dad can pick her up. So, we welcome you, Gianna. See how fast you can run off the board. Yeah, we can see. The mission of the Freehold Township School District is to honor and support every learner every day on the journey to become curious and engaged members of a diverse global community. A notice listing the time, date, and place of this meeting was posted on the public bulletin board of all Freehold Township schools, on the entrance door to the administrative offices of the Board of Education, on the district website, at the office of the Freehold Township Clerk, published in the Asbury Park Press on January 6, 2023, and sent to the news transcript on January 4th, 2023. I'd like to invite you all to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Mrs. Brand. Mrs. Coslino.
Here.
Mr. Gargiulo.
Here.
Mrs. O'Sullivan.
Present.
Mrs. Thoman.
Here.
Mrs. Vendatoli.
Here.
Gianna, are you here? Mr. Williams.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the April 4th, 2023 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second? Jeff, second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
I abstain.
Mike and Mary?
Yep.
Okay. I'd like a motion to approve the April 4th, 2023 executive session meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second? Same group.
Yep.
Neil. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
2 abstentions. Yep.
2 abstentions.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. Happy spring. Welcome to all who are joining us tonight. Just wanted to take a quick moment to give a shout out to all our administrators as spring typically hits our buildings. Spring fever hits our buildings. And the little people are really excited. I'll just say excited in a good way. And I applaud all our staff and our administrators and all the little things they're doing to just keep our kids going until the end of the year, to keep them engaged, keep them learning, doing what they need to do. And with that, I'd like to remind everybody here to keep checking the emails that we get from the individual schools with all the goings on. Like I know this week, Laura Donovan, I believe on Friday at 9:30, is having a second grade performance, a celebration of the United States of America. So that's at 9:30 in the morning. Check your emails. So if you can RSVP from the email link. They also have a Jersey Freeze fundraiser, but that's also this week. Same goes Erickson, I believe, is having their art show May 11th. There's a lot going on in the buildings. I won't go through all 8 buildings, just my public service. Check each of the individual things, and let's try to, if we can, get as many of us in the buildings or coordinate with each other, because I know everybody else's children have their own stuff going on, baseball and whatnot, to get in there. It's great to see. It's the fun part of the job, so it would be nice to do it. With that, I will move to the administrative report. Mr. Dickstein.
Good evening. I would like to start this evening by congratulating the Applegate PBS team. They were accepted as presenters at the New Jersey Positive Behavioral Support in Schools annual conference. In addition to Applegate PBS team presenting at that local conference, the ECLC PBS team has been accepted to present at the Northeast Region PBSIS conference. And that's been a theme across several of our meetings that several of our staff have been accepted to present at various conferences. And finally, I will be presenting with colleagues from the Matawan Aberdeen Regional School District at the New Jersey Association of School Administrators Conference, highlighting the work both districts have done with evaluating and improving staff morale. It brings me great pride that our staff across the district have been chosen so frequently to highlight our effective practices at these various conferences. As we've consistently shared with our school community, school safety is our highest priority. Students cannot learn effectively if they don't feel safe in school. We have shared that our district budget is tight this year, and we did not include additional Class 3 officers for our schools. However, we have reevaluated our proposed budget and considered reallocating specific line items to cover the cost of an additional Class 3 officer next school year. I figured this year, after I forgot to or clicked the wrong button for my budget and wound up at zero, now that it's populated, taking some money off of it.
Everything's
So-
relative.
While we can't increase our budget, we did look to reallocate some items that would be beneficial, but the need and result in having a Class 3 officer is higher, and we're looking to reallocate. Last year, we did try to fill two candidates, to find two candidates to fill positions, but the Freehold Township Police Department has posted in hopes of finding an officer to begin in September. That will bring us to 5 officers in our schools, and that's in addition to the officers on patrol who walk our schools daily during their regular shifts. As you may be aware, the township does fund half the cost of each officer, and I want to thank the Township Committee for being agreeable to add the 5th Class 3 officer to our district. Mr. DeVita and I shared our concerns regarding the impact of Chapter 44 in our school district budget during our budget presentations. As you may recall, this legislation regarding staff health benefits superseded all of our collective bargaining agreements and resulted in a $1.3 million deficit as this year's budget was presented. We sent letters to the governor's office and to our local senator and assemblywomen voicing our concerns. While we did not receive a response from the governor's office, Mr. DeVita and I met with Senator Gopal last week and Assemblywomen Olner and Paperno this week. Both meetings were productive, and we felt that our voices were heard, and the Assemblywomen gave us the opportunity, we were with them for an hour and a half, gave us the opportunity to talk on a variety of topics connected to education and took copious notes. I did share with our community via letter on Friday, our last day of school, aligned with our school calendar. Since we didn't use 3 emergency closing days, our last day of school will be Tuesday, June 20th. As many people are aware, we did communicate with the West Freehold School student population and their parents. We do have an issue with the air conditioning at West Freehold School. It will not be operational it's not currently operational, will not be for the end of the school year. We do have individual air conditioning units for most of the spaces in the school. Of course, individual air conditioning units are not particularly effective in large spaces, such as gymnasiums. We might have a solution for the cafeteria, so we can still use that space that we're researching. But many of the air conditioning units are already installed in the classrooms. But it is going to have an impact on some end of the year activities. They are still occurring, they just will occur off-site. One of those activities that we use West Freehold for is 8th grade graduation. We will be holding 8th grade graduation on June 15th with Barkalow at 3 o'clock and Eisenhower at 6 o'clock, and that will be in the auditorium at Freehold Township High School. I went over there with both building principals and evaluated the space. I have to give a very big thank you to Adam Brusati, who is the SICA at Freehold Township High School. He spent a great deal of time with us, gave us the schematics, and we are still able to accommodate the same 3 guests per student that we were accommodating at West Freehold. So we are looking forward to that and appreciate their hospitality. It is costing us nothing because they are gracious as a local school district that we send our students to. So we really appreciate that support. And that is all that I have.
monthly certification. I, Robert DeVita, the School Business Administrator Board Secretary, certifies that as of March 31st, 2023, no line item has been overexpended in violation of NJAC 6A 23A-16.1.0 C3, and that sufficient funds are available to meet the district's financial obligations for the remainder of the year.
Since our last meeting, there were 14 incidents reported. Out of those 14, 11 were confirmed and 3 were unfounded.
So this will be just like the one presentation was given last year. We've done all the hard work. We've gone through all the numbers. Nothing has changed. Mr. 16 said we're going to find money to find a money for an additional officer. Once the township does that, we'll have a transfer on the agenda to take care of that. I'm not sure exactly what the cost will be for the equipment that comes with the officer because of inflation. We saw what it was last year, but I'm sure even the price of the vehicle they get is probably up 10% from last year. So I just want to go over quickly the tax impact of the budget. As we discussed at all our meetings, the general fund tax levy, because we took the additional money for the increase in healthcare and we took some of our bank cap, it's going up 2.8% or $1.9 million. The debt service tax levy, which is what had already been voted on by the taxpayers of Freehold Township back in the 90s and 2000s, is going up 2.2%. Our Verizon tax, this is money that the township receives on behalf of the Board of Ed, that reduces our tax levy, went up slightly, $1,700. It's at $684,000. So the net tax you'll see is up a little bit over $2 million or 2.8%. Again, as I've said numerous times, because of Monmouth County assessing homes on a more regular basis than other counties, depends upon what I'm going to say here on the side. This is going to depend upon your actual tax increase or decrease, depends upon what your assessed value of your home is or when you were recently assessed. But the value of the township is estimated to go up about 13.3%. This is the largest increase that I've ever seen in my 20 years as a BA. The average home in Freehold Township is valued at $565,000, and we're estimating the tax rate to decrease to 0.897, which for the average home would be about a $392 decrease. And once again, that's just for our portion of the taxes. It doesn't count the municipality, the county, the fire districts, and the regional. So that's our part of this. The general fund budget that you'll be voting on is the same that we presented back on March 4th or 7th. I forget what day it was. The total general fund, this is our main operating budget, is $82.9 million. The revenue that supports that, as you can see, we are funded primarily through the tax levy. 88% or $73 million is the tax levy. State aid, while it did go up this year, it's at 6.4%, $5.2 million. Our fund balance, which we attempt to keep stable, and it has been stable the last few years, it's $2 million, about 2.4% of the budget, and all the other revenue that we collect. Extraordinary aid, tuition, transportation fees, money from SEMI, the money we pull out of maintenance reserve, and any other miscellaneous revenue is $2.4 million or roughly 3% of the budget. So, as we've discussed numerous times, our primary funding mechanism for our Board of Ed is the tax levy. Fund 20, which is a special revenue fund, is at a little bit over $1 million, and that supports these two grants, IDEA, so that's the grant for students with disabilities, and the ESEA grant, which is Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV. And then lastly, tonight on the agenda is the debt service fund. Again, this has already been voted on by the taxpayers 20 years ago at $3.7 million. How the money's spent. It's actually interesting. When I used this format last year, and Ms. Williams actually gave the presentation, I compared the two budgets. They're almost identical. No category, with the exception of support staff, went up by more than a few tenths of a percentage. Support went up about 1.1%, and that's as we discussed before. We have several students who require a one-to-one nurse on the bus, and for us, we have to, the cost that we're paying is a little bit over $100,000, and that's a support staff cost. So that's the only thing that really changed on this from last year. But you'll see classroom instruction is 39%. Co-curricular activities, a very small slice of the pie, 0.5%. Out-of-district tuition, we're very fortunate. It's only 1.6%. I will tell you this, we discussed before we had budgeted 3 contingencies. We have already used all 3 contingencies for next year. So we've already started this year and things have happened, including, as we said once before, we've already started to hire some of the one-to-one aides that we had budgeted for here. So we'll deal with it. It'll be fine. But we've already started to see some of the levers that we had to pull have already been filled. Support staff is at 12.3%. This is for your guidance counselors, your nurses, your child study team, your curriculum office, OT, PT, speech. That's the group that supports, not direct instruction, but supports the classroom instruction. Administration is 7.3%. Facilities security is 8.6% of the budget. Transportation at 5.7%. Benefits, second largest slice of the pie here, is 24.8%. Again, while our costs have gone up, as we've discussed, we're 6% increase for medical and prescription next year. This went up a few tenths of a percent overall because some of the other parts of the benefit package have actually come down. And then capital outlay is 0.2%. So as I said, it's hard to see when we have all those other numbers up on the paper. Other than what we tell you is new, everything else continues year after year. So that's why if you were to look at last year's pie chart, it would look almost identical to this year's pie chart. There's not really much here unless there's a new mandate from the state or we start some new program. You're really not going to see much change out of it. And just some of the items of note for next year. No budget category. The support, as I said before, increased by more than 1%. We talked about the additional staffing. We have 4 special education teachers that we need, 8 part-time TAs to support students with IEPs, the assistant data specialist job, 5 lunchroom assistants we're going to add. We're bringing the Applegate right now is the only school that has the kindergartners in their main cafeteria. The other 4 will bring their students, the kindergartners, back to the main cafeteria. So to provide extra support, we will hire through our enterprise fund, which is Fund 60, 5 additional lunchroom assistants. And as I said before, a 6% increase for medical. Energy, this is a big one. I sat down and I reconciled today. I still need to put a couple more transfers on. So we're up about $125,000 just in natural gas alone next year. So it's a fact. We had a great 3-year co-op deal on the commodity. And once we had to go back and rebid it last year for this year, the price went up substantially. And as we discussed before, we had a lease purchase for some additional kitchen equipment, 3 buses. I say hopefully 2 trucks for property services. We're having a hard time finding vehicles. We had received the quote back in December. When I called the company the other day and say, all right, I'm all ready to start my lease purchase. Just want to make sure you follow our procedure. Oh no, we don't have any more trucks. And they stopped they're not delivering that model anymore. So I've got to find somebody. It's fine. There's no inventory. So we'll find something, but and I think that's it. So as I said, I appreciate the board's time. We spent a lot of hours on this in the multiple meetings we had back in February and then into March. Nothing has changed, but if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer that. Otherwise, that's it. This is the easy part. We're very fortunate because with being self-insured, we know that healthcare cost in March typically, And that's the only thing we would ever wait for in the past. So the budget at that point, and once you do the tentative budget, unless you want to make changes, it's already been struck. So, yes, sir.
The buses and the trucks are, I know the buses are on a certain cycle, the trucks are completely separate, right?
Correct. We discussed we haven't purchased a new vehicle for property services. It's got to be over 10 years. And because they're used to salt and they plow, there's a lot of extra wear and tear on the vehicles. And the maintenance on some of those vehicles is getting pretty astronomical.
Yeah, no,
It's,
remember you said the buses have to be replaced with 13 years?
it's every, yeah.
The trucks aren't,
No,
doesn't fall into that category.
That's just a cycle of if we don't have vehicles that'll function when we get snow, we're then beholden to wait for the township to get done with plowing all the other roads. And then let's say we only get 3 inches of snow. If I can't plow that, then we have to wait until the township's done. And you might not open school on the day when you should be able to open school.
No,
That's all it is.
Purchase the truck,
Yep.
I just want to make sure that they don't fall into the same
Nope, it's different.
cycling category.
It's different. They're just starting. It's time. And
I think when we were having our meeting in February about the budget, we were also looking into the idea of potentially the two trucks. Any of those. Is that a possibility?
I haven't found anybody that will lease me a used truck. And you might actually pay. And here's going to be the issue. I know I look personally for used trucks. They're almost expensive as new trucks, and I don't know who owned them before. So you can go to Ford and get a truck with 24,000 miles on it. It's still going to cost you close to $50,000. So we would purchase a truck off a state or a co-op bid. So we're getting some form of a discount versus what you would pay retail. So yeah, I have not found anyone that's on a bid that will sell us a used vehicle.
And there's no Ford deal.
Probably not. No. So that's where they make their money. They're not donating pickup trucks. That's where they sell their sedans almost at cost, and then they make their money on their SUVs and their pickup trucks. That's their business model. So, anyone else? Otherwise, thank you very much. I told you that would be quick. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, moving on to public participation. This board offers two opportunities for public participation. The first is to express a comment or ask a question on anything that is being voted on the agenda tonight. The second opportunity is any item affecting the school district. So this would be the first opportunity for public participation. If you have a question or comment about an item that's on the agenda this evening, please step to the podium. Please write your name and address on the sign-in sheet and state your name for the record. Statements are limited to 3 minutes and shouldn't be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature. Would anyone like to address the board? Can't see behind the podium. No? Okay. Seeing no one, we'll move on to our first committee, Personnel Committee. Ms. O'Sullivan?
All right, we did not meet as a committee today. Moving to number 2, retirements as listed. Okay. Number 3, resignations as listed. 4, new employment as listed. 5, long-term substitute as listed. 6, creation of positions as listed. 7, change of assignment as listed. 8, curriculum committee as listed. 9, leaves of absence as listed. 10, task team as listed. 11, unpaid days as listed. 12, ESY staff update as listed. 13, data coach update as listed. 14, honoraria update as listed. 15, student teacher practicum observation placement as listed. 16, certified substitutes as listed. 17, non-certified substitutes as listed. And that is it. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll take a second. And a roll call.
Mrs. Brand?
Yes.
Mrs. Cozzolino?
Yes.
Mr. Gargiulo?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Mrs. Thoman?
Yes.
Mrs. Ventotoli?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Amoroso?
Yes.
Mrs. Lambert?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Moving on to Curriculum and Policy Committee, Ms. Cozzolino.
We did meet this evening. Present were Superintendent Dickstein, Mrs. Montgomery, Mike Amoroso, Jeff Williams, and myself. We reviewed the items on the agenda. We also reviewed the preschool disabled program. Regulation 5112. We discussed the postings that are coming up for summer curriculum committee work. I can read some of them off. If anybody wants to see the complete list, they can. K2 Science Supplemental Resources, 3-5 Science Supplemental Resources, Geometry Pathways Curriculum Planning, which is something that we've been talking about as a board for a while. There's going to be some work this summer on that. Informational Reading and Writing Unit Revision for grade 4. Word Study for grade 3. Review and Revise Math Common Assessments for grades 6 through 8. Grade 6 through 8 Middle School Morphology, which involves word study lessons for grades 6 through 8. RTI entrance and exit criteria. There'll be some committee work on that. And there'll be intervention program profile guides, intervention toolkits, all stuff we've been discussing as a board, and Mrs. Montgomery's been working very hard with her team to kind of pull all of this together. It was quite an impressive presentation, I thought. I don't know if the committee members want to agree with that, but I was impressed.
Squeezed into an hour.
Yes. We also discussed the additional field trip location, Sequest Aquarium, in Woodbridge. We discussed, obviously, more about word study and how the district is going to be approaching that. And like I said, we did the update on the curriculum committees for this summer. One of the things we also discussed was the elementary report card committee and kind of some of the things they're considering to increase communication between the schools and parents and make these report cards meaningful for feedback for kids. And also discussed a little bit K-2 reading resource review and all the work that's going into looking at that going forward.
Has anyone discussed the script issue further?
Yes, we have. As a matter of fact, my office is looking into resources that we haven't determined yet which grade level. It depends on the resource that we require, but we are looking into implementing some.
Back to all the grades or only?
No, as a supplemental resource, and we'll identify which grade based on the appropriate materials.
I also did have a question on the policy. We did notice a typo where two lines seem to have contradicted each other.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they do. So, and I'll tell you the intent, and you tell me if they contradict. So, there's two different circumstances. The circumstance we want to address in the policy is that students who are reevaluated at the end of their preschool experience, that reevaluation can be anywhere from January to initiated as late as March, because we have the time in which to do it, and it goes in 3 waves. So we don't want to penalize a child who is found no longer eligible by having them to have to withdraw from preschool and then return in kindergarten. So our intent in the revision was to take those children, and it's a small number, who are found no longer eligible when they're reevaluated, and still keep them in preschool tuition free through the end of the year, at which time they transition to kindergarten. A separate group, which happens infrequently but does happen, is 3 and or 4-year-olds who are reevaluated because we believe that they are no longer eligible. Those students, if they are found no longer eligible, will have the 30-day grace period and then have to pay tuition.
Okay.
So it could
Okay.
that could be the difference.
That
We
might
looked at
be.
two
That
different
might be.
groups
Okay.
That second group you're talking about are kids who could potentially return to preschool.
for 1 or 2 more
For 1 or
years.
2 more years as tuition paying.
Correct.
Okay.
But we would give a 30-day grace period once the eligibility meeting was conducted.
Okay.
The transition evaluated kid would stay.
Mm-hmm.
So like she's going to kindergarten next year. So CLC, they do an eval.
Yeah.
Every 3 years, they do the eval before you go to kindergarten. Forever.
So those kids would stay. It's just if
Yes.
you're evaluated
Did we write
earlier.
that in the policy, like exiting students?
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Then that's fine. That was the.
Okay. That was the question.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yes, sorry. I'm doing that. I got to move my papers. There was a lot that happened in that committee meeting. No, it's good. It's all good stuff. I want to move the rest of the agenda. Number 3, course reimbursements as listed. Number 4, home instruction as listed. And number 5, second reading of Regulation 5112, which we just discussed. And number 6, the field trip list, which we discussed, the addition of the Sequest Aquarium.
Any other questions before we take a second?
Question. Ms. Montgomery, are we doing anything with that history that one schoolhouse thing with the Historic Commission of Freehold Township?
So we met with, I'm sorry, I'm not going to remember her name. Cheryl, yes. And the teachers or the instructional coaches worked on populating a document where they identified all of the areas of our social studies and history curriculum that aligned with programs or resources that were available, and we shared it back with her. And so now we're just waiting for opportunities to schedule things. The coaches have been talking in their schools about opportunities to do that. I can tell you that one of the challenges is that some of the locations, at least, can't support a large number of kids coming at one time, right? So typically our classes will go on a field trip, like a whole grade level, which is sometimes upwards of 75 students, and most of the locations say that the capacity is only up to 25 people. So that's one of the things that we're trying to work around logistically. Yeah.
Sorry.
Can I have a second? Jeff's the happy seconder. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. Finance, facilities, and transportation, Ms. Vendatoli.
Thank you. The Finance, Facilities, and Transportation Committee did not meet this evening. Going to move the agenda items. Number 2, Secretary Treasurer's Report, as listed. Number 3, Bills and Claims. Total bills, $1,158,947.34. Payroll, $2,377,785.71, for a grand total of $3,536,733.05. I'd like to thank Mrs. Cozzolino for doing the bills. Number 4, the memorandum of understanding with the Freehold Township Police Department as listed. Number 5 is the travel and related expenses as listed. Number 6 is the travel and related expenses update as listed. Number 7, the out-of-district contract as listed. Number 8, the resolution to adopt the final budget for the 2023-2024 school year as listed. Number 9, health insurance rates for the 2023-2024 school year as listed. Number 10, transfers as listed. Number 11, rescind transfer as listed. Number 12, task team ESSER2 as listed. Number 13, the Shine stipends, formerly known as PACE, as listed. I don't know. Number 14, renewal of bid for school vehicle maintenance 2023 to 2024 as listed. Number 15, the renewal of the bid for recyclable collection services 2023 to 2024 is listed. Number 16, renewal of bid for boiler cleaning and repair, time and materials 2023 to 2024 as listed. And that is it for me.
No questions? Can I have a second? We're not. Yeah. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries. Okay, moving on, old business, new business, president's remarks. Does anybody have any news from any of the buildings that they wish to share?
I'm not sure if it.
Covered this last meeting, but I know a bunch of us were at Donovan's show, 5th grade show. It was a pirate show.
Mm-hmm.
It was pretty amazing.
It
They
was
did a
good.
really
It was
good
very
job.
good, yes. But I might have been.
You're indisposed.
Yeah.
I'd like to mention Erickson has some bandanas or banners around the column, which has been raising some questions
Yes.
in the neighborhood.
Yep.
Can you
The one
explain?
you emailed me about?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Can you explain further so that everyone can understand what's going on?
Yeah, I can. Neil can.
I have something prepared.
It's part of the PTO beautification committee. The PTOs in the various schools decorate the outside of the schools for spring. Did you want to address it?
Yeah, I think it's important to address. We got about 3 communications from parents, but I did want to say I did some research, and it was a dedicated group of PTO parents who joined the beautification committee and established monthly themes to which the schools would be decorated. This month's theme is April Showers Bring May Flowers. The decorations are now complete. They started over break. Our schools are inaccessible over break. The materials were in school. They came into the school this week. They finished the decorations. There's bees, clouds, flowers, and other spring-themed items. I did a Google search of the word rainbow. The first site that comes up is National Geographic. Defines a rainbow as a multicolored arc made by light striking water droplets. It indicates that rainbows are appropriate to be taught under earth science, meteorology, geography, and physics. The Weber Dictionary provides the following definition of rainbows: an arc or circle that exhibits in concentric bands the colors of the spectrum, and that's formed opposite the sun by the refraction and reflection of the sun's rays in raindrops, sprays, or mist. A multicolored array, a wide range or wide assortment or range, such as rainbow of flavors, and one that I thought of I was surprised that was in there, but was going to make the connection from the impossibility of reaching the rainbow, at whose foot a pot of gold is said to be buried, an illusory goal or hope. The last definition is certainly one to which we can all relate. We use it annually. Leprechauns, the pot of gold for St. Patrick's Day at the end of the rainbow. As a student, I remember being required to memorize the colors of the rainbow. I think everybody here, Roy G. Biv. And as a teacher who taught meteorology, rainbows was one of the topics that we taught in meteorology and in chemistry. Walking through schools for the year, we typically see themes about spring. April showers bring May flowers. With April showers come rainbows. Sun and rain or mist are required for a rainbow to form. Rainbows, flowers, and suns are all reflective of spring. It was a leap for adults to connect the decorations to anything but for what they were intended. Our children entering the school did not see what the same things that adults saw, and they see spring and a celebration of the time of the year. And again, it wasn't intended for anything but. It's a group of dedicated parents decorating to a theme. I think we still, in my family, when we see a rainbow, run outside to look at it. There's excitement when a rainbow's in the sky, and that's all it's connected to, and nothing but.
The pinwheels were great.
The concern that was raised was that there peculiar colors. There were no flowers. There were no bees. There were no pretty.
Because they weren't finished.
well-
They're finished now. The parents came over break when they were off with their children. Schools were closed. They couldn't get inside to finish. So once we reopened school, they came inside. They're complete now, and they do have other decorations with them.
The outside, because the outside ones only had 6 colors as opposed to
They
regular
do, and if they
7.
only had rainbows, they weren't intended for anything but decoration for the season.
And
But they are complete now.
6 colors are attributable to a nefarious kind of group, which don't, in my opinion, have a play in schools as far as political groups go.
I can only repeat that our purpose is April showers bring May flowers. They had it let out for the month. It was a group of parents that helped decorate. We, as staff members, were even present. The parents did that to support that theme, and it didn't mean anything but.
So Applegate has been celebrating Abilities Awareness Month. So I'm not sure if many of you know. For the last couple of years, they've been doing. Our big star was here. What was that? 4 years ago? 5 years ago? A Pie in the Face fundraiser, and they've been doing. So hold on, I'm gonna read it because I can't remember everything. The whole month is fundraising for Abilities Awareness. The proceeds from all the activities were going to Our Place to Play, which is our all-inclusive, all abilities playground at Applegate. They sold fidget spinners in the morning, and they did a disabilities awareness fair for homerooms, and they did the Pie a Teacher fundraiser on Friday. So just wanted to let everyone know. I wasn't able to go because I got some baggage lately, but but she's cute, but she's a lot. But they said it was a great event, and we're going to look to start doing some more things for Our Place to Play coming up. So keep that in your minds.
My understanding is that we're close to phase two having enough money to.
So
to the
we
next
have the money to cover the standalone equipment, but we don't have the money to cover the installation just yet. So we're going to buy the equipment once we find some place to store it, because what's been happening is every year the prices just keep going up and up and up. So while we have the money to cover it, we want to buy what we can, and then we'll figure out how to put it in at some point.
And for people who are here tonight who may not be aware of Our Place to Play, because it's been going on for several years, can you
Sure.
explain?
I don't know, what year was it? 2015 maybe? 2015?
It's about 8 years ago.
Yeah, we Ms. Montgomery was the principal at Applegate. My son was in, I want to say, 1st or 2nd grade. He's a freshman in high school now. And Ms. Caracappa came up with this idea to build a playground for kids of all abilities and all ages. So we tore down the existing playground, and we raised money, and the board helped, and tremendously. The board helped funding a lot of the first phase, and we raised money to put in a playground that was perfect for the kids in our community. So it had sensory items, it had a large enough walkway, so if you needed to go up with a wheelchair or a walker, we put in swings that were accessible for all students because of our Applegate houses a lot of our special education programs, so we do have kids of all different abilities that go to school there. And it's been a project that we've been doing labor of love for a very long time, and we're going to finish it. And it's going to be I believe it was the first public all-inclusive playground in a school. So, yeah, yes.
With this particular group, and I know we did this in the wake of Hurricane Sandy.
Mhm.
We had like a community day of like action where if people need volunteer hours, things like that, where once the materials are bought, work with the community to build the playground itself. Would we have the ability to do something like with this organization?
I think, Bob, the
That's a
promise
hard
has to be a certified, state-approved installer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a hard no. Yeah, no, I understand what you were saying, but no, we wouldn't have that luxury.
But to his point, that spawned the township putting on in Michael J. Tuck's Park.
Yes,
Yeah.
So
it did.
it gets done, but it gets done.
Right.
Yes.
And because it's getting done in phases, I was going to raise it later, but I'm glad Carrie brought it up. We want to keep people aware of it.
Yeah, no, I know there's companies that offer volunteer days off. I've taken them to do playground builds, things like that.
Right.
So I just wanted to do something we didn't since you're here, but
Yeah, over the last 3 years, because of COVID, we've kind of not that we've stopped the focus, but we've kind of we had to stop the fundraising because a lot of our fundraising is teacher led, it's kid involved. So now that we're back in full swing, we're going to start looking for active members because some of our board members have kids graduating high school at this point. So we're going to start looking for, some more people that want to get involved, and we're definitely looking to finish. And our goal is to eventually put in the rubber floored bottom there, which would be the end of that playground. The completion. Absolutely. Listen, we take every volunteer who wants to help, and we're looking to do something over the summer and the fall, so I'll definitely keep you all posted.
I have a question here. Going back to Erickson, what is the relationship between the parents, the PTO, the administrators, and the Board of Ed when it comes to decorating the schools?
No, it's fine. I was going to give
The PTO collaborates with the building administration. Sometimes teachers are involved. The Board of Education isn't involved in the decoration. It's not a facility change. It's not a facility revision. It's simple decoration.
All right, because, we have to seek to be neutral in what we're doing. When you see the six-colored gay pride rainbow, it gets people very sensitive, and, everybody's offended these days. I personally was offended. However, I can understand it as being an error or something to do with spring, maybe, but we need to make sure we're neutral in everything we do.
And we are. A rainbow, it's those interpreting it are making the decision to connect it to an organization. Our theme, as I said, is April showers bring May flowers. Walking through schools, I've been in education for 26 years. Walking through schools, rainbows are a regular staple on bulletin boards, connected before it was associated with any organization. So we're not going to eliminate rainbows in our decoration because a group affiliates with it, but it's not connected.
I understand that, but use the 7-color rainbow, not the 6-color rainbow.
Well, to be fair, it was wrapped around a column. It wasn't even a rainbow. It was
Or a
just
flag.
It was multicolored paper wrapped around a column.
It's the impression.
They drew a rainbow.
It's an impression, that's all.
Oh, I'm going
I-
to respectfully
listen, can I-
disagree. But I have to tell you, I think that we do live in I wrote this for Nada, we live in a politically charged environment where a lot of people are oversensitized to a lot of symbols And sometimes it's warranted and sometimes it really isn't. And I have to believe in this situation, been on this board 13 years, rainbows have been part of our buildings every spring from March forward, fundraisers in various shapes and form. In the rainbow form, I didn't even view this as a rainbow form. I viewed it as colors wrapped around a column. I think we're taking it too far. And look, I'm Catholic. I wear a cross. If another group decided to use the cross as as its symbol, would I stop wearing my cross? No. I am who I am. I think that we are a neutral school. We're a public school. I don't think we should impose very adult impositions of will and thought process and design on parent volunteers just trying to beautify school. If you saw the pictures of Erickson, it's beautiful. There's flowers, there's butterflies, there's pinwheels. It's a happy spring entrance. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay, I could accept that.
Yeah, I do have,
That's
it is. That's what it looks like.
And the parents who did it are tremendously upset
Yes,
by the response. Really upset because they are
because they donate their
volunteers,
time
donate
and
their
they
time,
thought they were doing something
and they were so
pretty.
upset by this. Yeah, it was not intended.
Did you have a thought? Go ahead.
They like color.
They like color.
Are
It's
we,
color.
are we going to say that our schools need to get rid of color? Like, parents spend time. Moms are juggling little ones at the same time they're decorating the school. I mean, you got to respect volunteers to
Right.
come in and make our schools seem more like an inclusive environment. And I mean inclusive in terms of parents coming in and helping.
Right.
Like being part and supporting their child's education. Like, this is important. This is how I came to this district. This is how I got involved. This is indirectly what led me here.
I think, and for the past couple of years, parents were, I hate to use the word denied, but were denied access to our buildings and to be involved. They're all happy to be involved now. They're happy to volunteer. They were trying to do a good thing.
I'd
It's
also
a pretty thing. I don't know if you saw the pictures. You're sending the pictures? Okay.
In that vein, I just wanted to give a shout out to the Katina PTO who worked so hard to produce the parent and son Comic-Con event that they had, which was absolutely wonderful. We had Spider-Man, we had Wonder Woman, we had some kind of martial arts going on, and there was a DJ, and it was a raucous good time. So they worked so hard to bring us these events and the school decorations, and I'm just so grateful for their time and efforts.
The only thing, Michelle, I would like to add is that the pictures that I saw had none of butterflies or flowers or birds or anything. It just had columns wrapped around with.
Renata, the day it was posted on Facebook was over spring break. The women who I'm an
No, this happened over this weekend, not spring
No,
break.
but the picture that showed that was just over spring break. The moms went in when the school was closed. We have a big PTO closet in the school that they keep all their supplies in. So this was just the supplies they had at home. So they started the decorating, and somebody went by and took a picture. They were 5% of the way done. It wasn't even, they hadn't even gotten their supplies out of the school. This was just some of the stuff they had. So that was when it was posted on Facebook that day.
No, I haven't. I'm not on Facebook. I'm
mean,
looking
the
at
picture
pictures that happened
the picture that
over
was-
this weekend.
The picture that was shown with just Neil just sent us what it actually looks like now. My son goes there. I can tell you, it looks beautiful and nothing
I
like
sent them.
just the
Yeah,
color.
because the original picture that I saw, which was taken Saturday or Friday, was of a column that looked distinctly like the gay pride flag.
I'm
The
gonna
colors
say-
are even in the order, the same order. Let
I
me
said it,
finish.
I'm going to say it for the third time, just so it's clear. Parent volunteers, when their children were home over spring break, began the process. As Carrie explained, that must have been the materials they had. They communicated with Mrs. Orman, who said, we need to get in the building. Nobody was available. The next time they were available, they completed the work by getting what they had out of the building. It was not done. They're parents, they have children, they have jobs, they come when they can, so they completed what they could, and then they returned. They don't look like flags. They were wrapped around a pole. Flags hang from a building. They were wrapped around the building as part of a spring theme.
Okay, if that's the case, then that's good, because I didn't see them.
I just sent them.
Yeah, well, there's some flowers. It still mostly looks like a flag. I'm sorry.
It doesn't look like a flag, and it's not a flag. It's wrapped around a pole. Flags don't get wrapped around
And,
poles.
okay, but it's still 6 colors, and the rainbow colors are 7.
We can invite you to the next Erickson PTO meeting if you want to be invited to speak with them.
Okay,
That's what we
fine.
can do.
I accept the invitation, accepted. Yes, your daddy's here.
Oh, okay. Oh, see? And we already lost our newest board member. Run, Gianna, run. No. Um. Okay. At this time, we will move on to public participation of any type. This is the second opportunity for public participation. If you wish to address the board, please write your name and address on the sign-in sheet. State your name for the record. Statements are limited to 3 minutes and should not be abusive, obscene, or defamatory in nature.
Hi, my name's Carmela Spieler. I live in Freehold. So I know we don't want to beat this dead horse, but I appreciate what the parents did in the decorations. And I know that those PTO moms work their tail and their butt, and they give their time and blood and sweat and tears and whatever drop of energy they have left after doing everything else they need to do. So I do appreciate them, but I would agree with Miss Lambert when she said it's not a rainbow, it's a flag. It does not look like a rainbow. It does look like a flag. And it only has the 6 colors when a real and natural rainbow has 7 colors. So you addressed who authorized it, or I don't know if the decorations need to be approved. I did see it. There were some birds and some flowers or springy looking things. I have pictures of it as well. But those flags in the same thing, just going from the bottom to the top, the purple, blue, green, yellow, orange, and red. To me, it looks like virtual signaling supporting an agenda, a curriculum that doesn't belong in an elementary school grade. I mean, and again, and if the parents didn't mean it like that, I get that. I say things that may be perceived the wrong way as well all the time, or do something and it looks a certain way and it looks, so I get that, but I would like to request that the board would take it down or change it for a arched rainbow, like the way Mr. Dickstein described what a rainbow looks like. And I see the flowers. It is beautiful. They did work their
I don't
butts.
even view it as a flag.
That's what my point is.
If
It's
you
not a
I
flag.
just,
At
is anything
the
wrong with
paper,
that?
it is a perfect rainbow. It starts with red, goes with orange, yellow, green, blue, and then they put violet because 9 chances out of 10 they couldn't get a paper that was indigo.
It's, I don't,
Because Roy G. Biv, I'm a science teacher, so it's red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. Indigo is a denim blue, violet blue. It's almost the same color on the spectrum. So they're not going to go look for another piece of paper to make it a differentiation between one layer of the color of the natural rainbow.
I get what you're saying.
And that is all it is. It is nothing more than that. If anybody has a diamond engagement ring and you play with it in the sun, you see that you make a rainbow, because I do it all the time when I'm driving. And you can see, as a science person, all right, you take crystals, you show it in science class. They do this thousands and thousands and thousands of times, all right, with children from 2nd grade through high school. When they take chemistry in college, then when they take physics, they're still using prisms, they're still using white light, they're separating the light, and that's what you get. You get Roy G. Biv. The only thing they didn't do was put that extra color at the bottom. Because for their purposes, it really doesn't make sense to do it. Because they're not going to find the piece of paper that's going to be that color. And that's why it is the way it is. It's basic. It's basic science. It's basic materials. You shouldn't be blowing up an elementary school that work, the people in that school work, the teachers, the principal, the assistant principal, the parents, the kids, they're working 24/7. They're trying to make the inside and the outside as pleasant and a learning experience. Because you know what? When those little kids walk in, they're going to see those stripes and they're going to say, that's the rainbow. And then somebody else is going to say, oh, that's RGB. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. All right? But they're missing the indigo. That's all it is.
Ms. O'Sullivan is correct. Indigo is hard to find. And she's exactly right what she's saying about the color indigo. However, some of the people are saying, because we all have different opinions, is it offended someone, and that's the only point that's trying to be made. Just like if we talk about pictures of guns, people get offended. So I accept people saying, I don't like guns at Facebook posts or any of that, even if it's on a piece of paper. People get offended. It's a sensitive society. So you have to respect the other people's opinions also.
The difference,
Like I
Mr.
explained
Gargiulo, is when I explained it, your response was, now I understand. So I think without context, people interpret it their way and make a judgment. And the context I'm providing is April showers, bring May flowers, done by parent volunteers. And part of what we teach in school is the rainbow, the colors of the rainbow, and rainbows are formed. And now that I clarified that, those that perceived it otherwise should be satisfied, but we're not changing it.
Understood.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I hear what you're saying.
I understand that, and also, certainly, I have volunteered for so many things in my life, especially charity work, and I know the effort that goes into it. So we're not degrading or demoralizing the PTO. They do a great job, and we appreciate it.
No, I understand that. And like I explained to Renata, we do live in a sensitized society. Like you said, when there was the Facebook post about guns, I defended Renata's right to post what she wanted to post on her private Facebook page. The reality is that there's a lot of symbols in society that can be looked at both ways. You have to look at the intent. If there's a group of people that are going to always be offended by the rainbow in any way, shape, or form, however it's presented, there isn't a lot that we can do about that. We know how we operate in Freehold Township. We know the intent behind our PTOs. We support our PTOs. We support our students. The schools look beautiful, and we just have to leave it at that. We could agree to disagree if some people are still upset about it, but this board would never ask the PTO, as that school is decorated right now, to take down those decorations. And I don't think this administration would, but that would certainly be up to the administration. It's not our call. We don't administer the schools. We administer the policy. If administration saw nothing wrong with it,
Well, if it
would be
was
left at that.
a better rendition of a real rainbow, I would go and help redecorate if they need to be. I personally think it looks exactly like the flag and not a rainbow. And it's sort of like virtual signaling. I think children need to be, yes, I think the environment needs to be friendly and beautiful and comforting to them. But I think we need to, after we roll out the curriculum from 2020 that's inappropriate for elementary school education, I think we need to get back to educating kids, math, English, science, and keep it at that.
I agree, and the rainbow is science.
Would anybody else like to address the board? Good evening.
Good evening. How are you? Let me fill this out. My name's Dan Finney. and I am not a resident of Freehold. I have 5 kids, and the youngest is 10. We have kids in our Sunday school program from Freehold, quite a few. So I've taught in a number of different settings, children and adults actually, during my military career. And my mother was a teacher. So first, I would like to thank you for your involvement in educating our kids. It's very, very important. And talking about my military experience, one thing I know about is diversity and inclusion, and some other words that are being, I think, distorted and misused in our society today. And started out as a Navy cook and worked with a lot of different nationalities and backgrounds and all that. And I'm very proud to say that military is a leader in taking people and putting them into a team. And also, it's very important that, talking about racial issues and, some of this tension going on in our society, God's word says in Acts 26:17, from one blood, God made every nation of men. And, the color and the pigments of skin deep. And that's what it should be, because we're all, God's creatures, in my opinion. And on this issue of rainbow, that's predominantly why I wanted to come. And here I have been involved in a couple school board meetings in my township recently, and some of this issue has been discussed. So I appreciate the clarification. It should be what you described, the spring colors, the rainbow, and that. Unfortunately, we do know that there has been a lot of confusion created, and this movement has basically usurped the rainbow. I'm not offended by the rainbow. I am offended that it's been used in this way, because the fact is, it has nothing to do with inclusion or diversity. It's about an agenda. It's about wanting it promoted and endorsed and celebrated. We have LGBTQ celebration month. We have, even glamorization in some cases. And what the point I want to make to the board is that it's probably not going to get any better based on some of the things that happen nationally. And I don't know how many of you are aware that in the state of Oregon, Christian parents are not eligible to adopt children unless they agree to support gender affirmation, including puberty blockers and other stuff. And the state actually, there's a suit ongoing now. If you're not aware of it, I'm sure you could look it up. It's actually doubled down. The state of Oregon Health and Human Services have doubled down on it and asserting that that's correct, unless people sign and affirm that that they're going to support even young children if they get excited about LGBT affirmation.
I'm going to ask you to wrap up because you're beyond
Okay.
the 3 minutes.
So every generation has a tendency to rebel against authority, and they're children, and they do need leadership. Do not be confused or complacent, thinking that it's not a big deal and it's just colors or whatever. And in this case, I'm sure that I take your word, it was, but it is not going to go away because there's an attack on our children.
Thank you for your time.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to address the board?
Hi, my name is Danny Wolf. I am a resident of Freehold, and believe it or not, I'm not talking about rainbows. But what I find out is what is the schools here in Freehold deal with protection for the students with all the awful violence that's happening in the schools. Do we have police officers in the schools?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So we, over the course, we have a lot of facility modifications. When the first school shooting started to occur, we started to take action. So we've been for years working with our school facilities. Some we can share and some we can't. But facility modifications to make it more difficult for an intruder to get into our buildings. So we've done modifications to our buildings there. We also changed our procedures pretty quickly, and even since then, to limit the amount of people that can come into the buildings, and our procedures for visitors. As far as officers go, are you familiar, and I won't go into it if you are, with Class 3 officers? So Class 3 officer was designed after a series of school shootings, designed for, I think, retired or new officers to then continue on in schools, protecting the schools. It's a different class of officer. So Class 3 officer was designed specifically for that. Before that even happened, we had a Class 2 officer, so a special officer, and one in our schools. We're up to five for next year. So it's a contract with the Freehold Township Police Department. They provide officers, Class 3 officers, to be exclusively in our schools. We have 8 schools, 4 schools, 2 sets of schools share campuses. So we have next year, our goal, we're adding another one. Our goal is 5 for next year. But in addition to that, our police department requires that the patrolmen and women who are driving around town patrolling, that one of their stops daily are our schools in their area that they're patrolling, and do a walkthrough of our schools. So that's in addition to the 5 that we have. And then from there, we have a great deal of, as I said, modifications to our facilities, policies, procedures that we put into place to maximize school safety and increase our target hardening, sending the message like it's very difficult to do something here.
It's very good to hear. I'm going to close with this.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a child and I was in school, we had fire drills.
Yeah.
God forbid the school catches fire, you knew where to go.
Yeah.
Do we have the same thing set up here?
That's a really good question.
Our schools?
Yeah, that's a
where
really
kids go if somebody walks in.
Yeah,
that's the unthinkable.
That's an excellent question. It's something that we very early on, before it was required, we did lockdown drills before they were required. Now it's an actual legal requirement. You have to do 2 lockdown. So it's only 1 fire drill a month now. It used to be 2. The second one is called a safety drill. That is a lockdown drill, a shelter-in-place drill, a bomb threat drill, an evacuation drill, and I'm missing one. Active shooter and is the lockdown. So yes, we actually do practice them. The students are taught one of the first days of school where to go, and our staff have to do annual training as well in safety and security.
Okay.
If you and again, it's a board meeting. You're limited with the time. If you want any more information on our website, you can reach out to me. Dr. Brethauer is the school safety coordinator. I did that position for 10 years. She's been in it now for 5. So either one of us would be more than happy to give you more detail and answer any other questions you have.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Would anybody else like to address the board?
My name's Carolyn Mack, and I'm from Matawan. And I'm just going to say, I've read articles that, yes, we all know the rainbow symbol has been commandeered, right? I think we all know that in this room. It doesn't mean what it used to. And I've read articles that in libraries and schools, some teachers and librarians are wearing a name tag, and on the name tag it has a rainbow. And that lets the kids know that this is an LGBTQ safe zone. If you are a male identifying as a female or vice versa, that person is a safe person to go to. And I think the kids, like I said, the articles I've read, this is what the kids are being taught. I would associate a school that has the pillars covered in what looks like a flag, and it does, I'm sorry, it does. I would be afraid of communicating to children that this school, we support the idea that you can change your sex, you can change your gender, and we will help you do that without your parents' knowledge. That's what I think is communicated. When that's the main thing you see when you drive up to a school, is those pillars that are covered. You don't, if it was a April showers bring May flowers theme, I would expect to see umbrellas, birds, flowers, green grass. That would be the predominant thing that I would see, not what looks like an LGBTQ flag. So that's all I want to say. I do think there's a confusing message at the very least. At the very least, it's confusing. Not sure. I wouldn't drive up to the building and say, oh, that's a nice spring decoration when I see it. That's not what I would think. And I think in this culture that we live in now, I think most parents and even kids that drive up, they don't think April showers bring May flowers when they see that. I think they think it's an LGBTQ message. So that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our students, it's decorated for our students who don't interpret it that way. And I just want to clarify one point that I think is important. In our schools, I don't know the article you read, our desk staff don't wear name tags, but we encourage all of our students, doesn't matter, any student who's here of our 3,500, to identify trusted adults in their building that they can talk to about anything that's bothering them. It's not specific to what you're reading in this article, but we do ascribe to having a trusted adult in the building if they feel uncomfortable and safe about anything that they can go to speak to on any topic, not exclusive. Without
any color associated, just I am a trusted adult. And the new behavioral threat assessment model that the state is moving towards, the number one factor in identifying violent people who are may have a propensity to commit violence is lack of connectedness to their school. It is the number one factor. The FBI has done years of research, so I don't mean to speak as the school safety specialist. But yes, we need buildings and buildings of trusted adults so kids don't make poor choices. Correct.
Michelle, I just want to say, as an Erickson parent whose child has been back to school, I guess now 7 days since spring break, do you want to know what he said to me about the decorations outside of school? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He has not noticed them. He has not questioned them. He has not asked anything. He walks past them every day. You know, so to say that our 8-year-old kids are noticing these things, I think the parents and the adults around them maybe, but as a parent there, and I stand at the crosswalk every day where we have 30-something kids, I've not heard anyone say anything about the rainbows, the pillars, or anything. So I think, you know.
Because as an educator for 26 years, there has not been a year that I've not been in a school that didn't have a rainbow at some point for some purpose connected to curriculum or the time of year.
I think if there was
The
no
kids are used to
decorations, you know, they would notice that. But they're so used to the parents and everybody making the outside of Erickson beautiful every month that, you know, it's just, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, just one more point on this too. When it wasn't complete, people interpret things the way they want. Agree, disagree, or not. But once the mural, the decorations were complete, at that point, as adults, we should have the ability to suspend belief a little bit, to look at the area and be like, this is what they had to work with. They had these square pillars to work with. That's what they, like, so to have a perfect, you know, U-shaped or half-circle rainbow might not have been possible in this space because of what they had to work with. But when you suspend belief or disbelief, when you put it all together, based off of what Superintendent Dickstein just sent me, there's nothing there. You know, so as adults, we should have the ability to put it all together and suspend disbelief.
Listen, like I said earlier, we're 9 members of this board. We're administration. We probably all could have different opinions on it. I have my own opinion. I hear the opinion of some members of the public that they were offended. I don't think that those decorations need to be removed. And I personally don't view those colors in any other light but bright colors. That's my personal. We all can take, whatever stand we want on whether it looked like a flag of sorts. I don't even think it looked like a flag. It looked like a pole that was wrapped in some kind of paper or mesh or whatever, like a brick. It was a brick pillar to me, wrapped in color.
And that's my point of suspending. This is what they had to work with, a square pillar.
But that's my opinion. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. We've satisfied that administration does not think anything was amiss or done wrong. That we are a neutral school. We're an inclusive environment. Bringing parents in, PTO people, volunteers, and we're just going to move it on from there. Would anybody else like to address the board?
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
I mean, 10 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but because it has changed and the rainbow has evolved, I do love rainbows. I have nothing against God created the rainbow. It was a promise to Noah. But this one does offend, and I wish that that they would remove it. And you're right. And maybe the kids don't know and see it that way because they haven't learned it yet, but it'll just be something, that's just very basic and normal and brought into their culture, whether their parents agree with it or not. It's something so that it just moves this further down the line. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board?
I'm just going to try and finish it up here. Lisa Johnston. I do not live in the township, but I am the FTA president. And to all of the people listening and to our board and to our people that are here, as the leader of the teachers in Freehold Township, we are teaching curriculum, we are teaching reading, we are teaching writing, we are teaching them to be good students, to be positive behavior systems. We are not teaching anything about the rainbow being anything but a rainbow. Thank you so much for coming from Manasquan to Freehold to tell us about rainbows. But we know what we need to teach. It has nothing to do with politics. These are kids. We are not teaching the kids our politics. As teachers, we must remain neutral. We don't even talk in social studies class about our political opinions because that would not be appropriate. So we would like to thank our board for making sure that we do stay neutral and to let the public know, of course, you're entitled to your opinion. Our teachers are entitled to their opinion. All of our staff are. But we are not entitled to teach our opinion and our politics to our students. And we do not. They're our little cherubs. They're our little kiddos. We want them to be successful and happy and love color because that's all it is beautiful color. So thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to address the board? Seeing no one, I want to thank you all for attending this evening, especially Megan Lambert, whose email I get. Nice to meet you. That's my shout out. And this is a public service announcement. If anyone in fact sends the real Megan Lambert an email and she does not respond to you, that means it went to me by accident and I did not check my email. So if you don't get a response from her in a very timely fashion, check that email. Don't forget to put M. Lambert 1 before writing out Freehold Township, because I feel like I have probably caused this woman much heartache and missing much meetings. And I just really going to push it back on the rest of you. Check the email, people. Check the email. With that said, I'd like a motion to move into executive session. Okay. Whereas pursuant to NJSA 10-412B, the Board of Education may exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting at which the board discusses any of the matters described at NJSA 10-412B items 1 through 9. Now therefore be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meeting Act, the Board of Education shall conduct a closed session pursuant to the personnel and legal exceptions prescribed by NJSA 10-412 for the purposes of discussing personnel, non-affiliated contracts, and central office administrator contracts, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations with the TWU. It is anticipated the length of this executive session will be 45 minutes and that action will not be taken in public after the executive session concludes. Be it further resolved that said discussion may be disclosed to the public when the reasons for discussing and acting upon it in closed session no longer exist. So with that, I'll take a second to move into executive. Second. And thank you all for attending. If you do wish to remain, we do go back into open session to close the meeting, but that'll be in about 45 minutes to an hour.